Hey guys, welcome back. I have another painting video. This time I'm really happy to share with you guys a very tiny miniature. This is a old Citadel Hobbit miniature. More specifically, this is Bilbo Baggins, I believe, produced in 1985. And I think with the new Middle Earth on the horizon, and the new movie that's coming out fairly soon, I thought it'd be fun to paint a Hobbit. I'm actually using this guy for Talisman as well. That's the primary use of him. But this video will cover how to paint a typical Lord of the Rings Hobbit. You can use this for any Hobbit miniature, including the modern ones or any older ones. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Now guys, unfortunately I completely forgot to hit the record button, so I started already applying base coats. For any green section, put Deathworld Forest. For any beige, put Xandri Dust. And for any skin tone, put Vallejo Tan. Again, use my model as a guide and you can adjust it to the model you are painting. So to start painting the model, I actually focus on the eyes first, that way you can clean up the face and the cheeks and anything you mess up. You're going to grab GW Black Legion contrast and just put it on the pupils. Next we grab Vallejo Off-White, and you're going to use this to paint the whole eye. Make sure you leave some black outlining the eye, that way it does add a border and it doesn't get lost into the face once you paint it. This does leave a cartoony look, but that's the way I've been painting, so feel free to do that or just skip the black step, up to you. And off camera, I grabbed my brush and just applied 2 small black dots for the irises, and the eyes are done for the model. Pretty straightforward. Now back focusing on the skin, we're gonna grab Vallejo Heavy Skin Tone and essentially base coat all the skin sections again, leaving the tan in just the darkest sections. This part, up to you how much you want to apply. I put a heavier coat as I wanted the skin tone to be more pale. Next up, grabbing both Vallejo Pale Flesh and Heavy Skin Tone, you're going to make the mix roughly a 1-to-1. And you're going to start highlighting all of the sections that you want. So for example, I'm going to highlight the knuckles and the fingers. Don't forget to always leave the previous step showing. If you don't do it, then like I always say, there was no point of doing it. So don't waste your time. But this also helps build up a very nice transition in gradient without having the need to wet blend or glaze constantly. So grab the skin tone we just had, add a little bit more pale flesh. I cannot give you an exact recipe, but this is the second to last highlight, so that does give a good indication of how much pale flesh you want to mix in. And I'm just highlighting again knuckles, fingers. Try putting less and less as we're almost done with the skin and we want it to really pop with the final highlight. Finally, we grab Vallejo Pure Pale Flesh and just apply it on the sharpest edges and ridges. So I'm focusing on the tips of the fingers. Eventually I'll focus it on his nose bridge, on the high cheeks, and his chin. So take your time with this step, as this is the final step for the skin recipe. Moving along to the green cloth, we're going to grab Citadel Contrast Perandress Green, I think it's called, and apply this over the Deathworld Forest. This has become a go-to of mine as it provides a very rich color that you don't have to start layering up with Warpstone Glow as a very typical fashion, so you can kind of cheat the method a little bit. But we will grab Warpstone Glow and start highlighting once the contrast paint is fully dried. So for this section, you can put as much Warpstone Glow as you want. Because this Hobbit has such a big sun hat, I'm going to apply it across not just the edge, but some of the flat sections and add a little bit of texture. Not the most fanciest one, as this is a very straightforward paint job. Now we're going to grab Moot Green and Warpstone Glow from Citadel, make a roughly 50-50 mix again, and just start highlighting it. It does look very striking and not well blended when you first apply it, but take your time and you'll see by layering it up that it will have a very natural gradient that your eye will kind of put for itself, so you don't have to add all these glazes or wet blend it up as you typically would. After that, we're going to grab pure Moot Green and just highlight the sharpest edges, and when you highlight the inside of the sun hat, you can add some random lines for fabric and cloth texture. So we're gonna grab Heavy Warm Gray from Vallejo and apply this to his undershirt. It's an alternative to GW's Rakarth Flush that personally I do like a lot more, and I think it applies with a better coverage than GW's. Up next, we're gonna grab Shadow Wash from Army Painter's D&D line, and we're gonna apply it over the Heavy Warm Gray. And in fact, this shadow wash I will use a lot more when I shade the books and random trinkets the Hobbit model has. Next up is grabbing GW Mournfang Brown, and we're going to use this to highlight any of the leather sections. I should have mentioned that all the brown parts were base coated in Vallejo Charred Brown. I typically base coat the models in Oak Brown with the Army Painter Primer. Moving along, the next couple steps will be the books themselves. And for this step, I actually don't go into too much detail as I do leave it up to you as the painter to decide what colors to use. But for the first one, I went for Screamer Pink as I do think it gives a very antiquated look and it's just a very nice alternative to all the earthy tones. I then grab Deathworld Forest and I paint his little knapsack too. Again, I'm trying to keep in tone with this nature vibe, but I do think I should have painted it a slightly different color. And another option I used was Mesbg Blue for one of the books. Again, the books are all up to you guys as really any color could be used. I could paint the books yellow, I could have painted them bright orange if I wanted to, so this section I do think you guys can kind of zone out and not pay too much attention to. So like I mentioned before, we're going to grab the D&D Shadow Wash from the Army Painter, and pretty simple, we're going to apply it over the whole books and a little bit of the knapsack, pretty much any part that you think needs a quick shade, as again these are such small details they don't need that much effort put into them. Moving back to a center focus of the Hobbit, we're going to grab GW Pallid Witchflesh and highlight his kind of undershirt, the one that we base coated Heavy Warm Gray. I think this is a very simple step. One highlight is all you need and it should pop. Going back towards the books and how I highlighted them, essentially I just grabbed a little bit of white and applied it to the Screamer Pink, Mesbg Blue, and I believe I used Mephiston Red for the book. Going back to the brown parts, I decided to add a little bit more detail. So in addition to the Mournfang Brown, I added a highlight of Scrag Brown from Citadel. Then I grabbed Deathclaw Brown from Citadel just as a final highlight. I just aimed for some sharp corners. Again, this is supposed to be kind of simple. Didn't want to spend too much time on this model. So almost done with the model, we're going to grab Zemesi Desert from Citadel and add a highlight to the overcoat. This is starting to introduce some yellow tones that we need for the coat for the last highlight. And for the last highlight, we're going to grab GW Uriel Yellow and just apply a couple highlights to the most, again, pronounced sections. But there you guys have it, a pretty simple paint job for a really cute looking Hobbit model. If I played more Middle Earth, I would definitely start collecting these older ranges just because they have so much cuteness to them, especially with Bilbo having this, to be honest, very cool looking hat. I hope you guys enjoyed the paint job. Again, less than an hour to get, I would say, tabletop quality. So hope you guys enjoyed it. A lot more painting guides to come.